name is Julio Salinas. I am a candidate for the State House in District 41. That's McAllen, Mission, Farr, and Edinburgh. I'm a son of immigrants and a proud son of the Rio Grande Valley. My dad was a migrant farmer. He ping-ponged around between California and New York, landing here in the Rio Grande Valley for two simple reasons: a low cost of living and a strong sense of community. That Rio Grande Valley and the promise of the Rio Grande Valley that allowed my dad to succeed, to get a job, get an education, get a decent paying job in local journalism, and then affording a home and giving my family a decent life. That's a RGV. That's a system that just simply doesn't exist anymore. Young people, and working class people have been squeezed out of this economy, and we need working class people to make a big difference. I've been working in the state legislature for the past 5 years. I've been a community organizer for the last 10. Being the youngest person in this race, at 25 years old, soon to be 26 next week, I have the most amount of experience in this role. I'm also the Hispanic Caucus co-chair of the Texas Democratic Party, so I have both organizational and legislative experience that cannot be touted by any other candidate in this race. We are at this moment, in a critical moment, about who we are as a Rio Grande Valley, and House District 41 will decide where we go forward from here. The future of the RGV, I think, is a very bright one, but it's only if we fight for what we have right now, because we are being constantly barraged under attack by a rogue federal government and a rogue state government that has been taking away all local control from us and also from the people. My intention is to get into the state legislature and make an RGV that works for all of us, all being an acronym for affordability, labor, and liberty. That's a $15,000 raise for teachers, Medicaid expansion, capping prescription drug prices, high-speed rail program, and a child care tax credit to bring a new age for the Rio Grande Valley. We need that new generation, and I hope they will stand with me. I think in this race specifically, no one can count as much of a legislative successes in the state legislature, in the transportation committee, as I have. I've worked in the transportation committee when I was working in the state legislature for the past 5 years. This was something that is a really big project of mine, and in reality, I intend to request transportation as my top pick for what I think is going to be what committee I can be on. So one of the biggest issues in terms of infrastructure down here in the Rio Grande Valley is flood control and mitigation. We have the ability right now to put in great investments into the Rio Grande Valley in forms of drainage, improving both our current forms of drainage, and then strategically putting in new avenues of drainage all across the Rio Grande Valley where they have been most affected. This puts a massive strain on our system anytime that it rains beyond what were expected throughout a certain year. And because of climate change, we're seeing that more and more every single year. One of the biggest things that I want to do in terms of infrastructure funding in these areas and lighting is one of them. It's a very big prong approach, is making a more walkable city. This McAllen, Mission, Farr, and Edinburgh are some of the most unwalkable cities in the entire country. Anywhere you go, you have to have a car, and at the end of the day, that's a big issue. And one of the biggest things that we can do with that is improve funding in terms of sidewalks. Improve funding in terms of sidewalks, and of course, those need to be lit up in certain ways so that we can prevent a lot of unsafe practices from happening in those areas. Further, another idea that I have that I've been pushing for more than any other candidate in this race has been high-speed rail. And we have the ability right now to bring in an economic boom into the Rio Grande Valley by bringing high-speed rail program down here along the South Texas border corridor, bringing it all the way down from Laredo to Brownsville, and then Mission, connecting that to San Antonio, and then down to Monterey. This would be an economic boom for a lot of us, creating good union, good-paying jobs all across the Rio Grande Valley, even before spike is driven into the ground. So we have a lot of infrastructure needs, and we have a crumbling infrastructure problem here in the Rio Grande Valley. We also have the water crisis. We need major investments into lining our canals and our making sure that we can lower the cost of desalination plants so that we can make so we can have our water system here. And that's the things that we can do at the state level. There are several other things that we can advocate for at the federal level, but at the state level, we have the ability and the funding to bring those things into the Rio Grande Valley. Especially in this coming time, when the issue of the day, the issue of the century, is how we're treating immigrants right now in this era. This is an era of danger where we are putting people who are living in this country as second class citizens, and that is not something that I take lightly in this situation. My parents are immigrants. My dad was a migrant farmer who ping ponged around between California and New York before landing here in the Rio Grande Valley. He was given an opportunity. He was documented, but he was given that opportunity, and that opportunity was afforded to undocumented immigrants as well. And that's something that I believe that we really need to make sure that we have. An educated populace, even if they live here under DACA or under any reform of that kind of system, they need to be able to have those educational efforts so that we can have it's not only good for the economy, but it's good for our morality. It's just the case. So that's something that I want to be able to advocate for in the state legislature, to bring back a lot of those things. And by the way, this used to be a Republican talking point. When the Republicans, when under George W. Bush, under George Bush Sr., these are something under Reagan. I mean, these are people who believed that we needed an educated populace, and even if they were undocumented, they needed to have these kinds of access to these programs, same as all of us here. It is an improvement upon our own. And the answer is, we should have any person voting. You have to understand, right here in the United States, in the state constitution, we are required to give a proper education to all citizens. We're not even giving it to our own to all people living within Texas. We're not even giving it right now to our citizens. We need to expand that to all of our people. Every person needs to be educated. And that is my belief, and I'm going to bring that forward into the state legislature. This is the issue of the century as it stands. At a time and at a place where we are demonizing undocumented immigrants to no end right now, where right now we are seeing people being killed on the streets of Minnesota, and soon enough we could see our civil liberties being stripped from millions of Americans. That is happening right now in terms of several different bills. This is something that is very serious to me, and I've been talking about it on the campaign trail everywhere I go. SB 8 is one of those bills that shows that there's a rogue federal government and a state government that's complicit in helping the federal government do that, and they are employing our local law enforcement that should be right now protecting and serving the communities that they live in, instead of enforcing federal immigration law. So the answer to that question is, on my end, I believe that we should repeal SB 8, and I will be fighting. I've fought before in the past to not get it passed in the state legislature while I was working there, and I will fight to get it repealed in the state legislature when I get there. To the end of what the state government's role is in pursuing federal immigration, it should be a very, very limited one. That is the role and the authority of the federal government. Right now, we are spending $6 to $11 billion on border security. Operation Lone Star has been a complete failure. And I look forward in the next legislature to be letting people know that we are not going to stand by while all of this is happening. While all of this is happening, we're not going to stand by. We're going to actually make a big difference and fight against what is happening. In the state legislature, it's not only what you do, but it's the amount of the amount of bills that you've passed, of which I've helped pass several bills through the state legislature. But it's also about what bills you can kill. I was proud to be an integral part of killing a bill, SJR 87, which needed 100 votes in order to pass through the state legislature. It received 97, including several of, unfortunately, the delegation in Doll County. That bill would have denied bail to undocumented immigrants. It's not something that I take lightly, and something that I find egregious when we're talking about uh, two standards of two standards of justice. We need we can't have tiers of justice. We need to have justice across the board. And this is something that was very important to me. Procedurally, I've managed to help kill that bill, and I will continue to do so in the state legislature. And there's no other candidate who can prop themselves up over mentioning that they've done those legislative successes.